We are recording.
Oh, there we go.
So
Sorry.
in the old days, we used access control lists, ACLs, to control access to our resources. And we found that our systems were very expensive and difficult to manage. All these permissions for all these people, whatever. So the object capability says, I have a secret. And as long as it's my secret, you can't access it. But I can expose a secret to you to give you a capability, a capability to execute the API that object supports. So given
so it's like I'm an object that has multiple passwords, and if you have the right password, you can unlock this thing that I can do. Is it sort of like when you're playing a video game, you know, and the character, like say you're playing a video game and like the character picks up a new weapon, right? You've just unlocked that capability for that character object, right?
Right.
It was already there, but you needed the right password or the right thing to access that thing.
Right.
And so that's why it doesn't need cryptography, because it's just contained within the object itself.
Well, under the covers, it has to use cryptography, but you don't have to know about it.
Well, because they say, I was looking at the Agoric website and they were like, well, we don't have a cryptographic standard. This is for Java. We're using JavaScript. And I'm like, oh, okay. But because of object capabilities, we don't need cryptography. And I'm like, I don't understand how that.
Well, we need cryptography, but what ERTP does is it guarantees the ownership. It's only concerned about who owns the key.
Right.
It's not concerned about the cryptography itself.
Right, and all the communications are encrypted. They certainly use cryptography to encode all the communications. They have to be private. But within the application, you don't need to use cryptographic functions. Everything
it assumes.
All the names are available, and there's no need to use any cryptography in a VAT or a trusted environment.
But how do you know that there's trust there?
Because nobody else has to trust it. Only it does is it makes it so that each environment is completely untrusted by the other environments. But within that environment, everything is trusted. In other words, on my machine, I trust everything I do. Okay, nobody else can do anything on that machine without my permission. Okay, so the trust is that nobody else has access. That's why I trust my VAT.
Huh. And so
but I don't trust anybody else's VAT.
Now, isn't that basically the way things always were? Or is there something different about this? Or that's new or revolutionary about this? Because it seems like that's always the way it's been, right?
There used to be, that you used access control lists, so that when Joe Blow came to our site, we had to authenticate him. We had to find out. We had to find out what his permissions were. I don't know, I guess in the sense of nothing's really changed that much, except that with object capabilities, we use the object capability security model is that if it's a secret, then nobody else can access it, right? It's I don't know if I can explain it any better.
If it's a secret, then no one else can access it. But then once the secret's out, then what happens?
Well,
I mean, I guess it's the same thing with public-private key cryptography. It's like if I know your private key, then I can access your wallet.
right.
So, okay, so basically there's an object, and if I say open sesame the right way, then it enables me to work with it within the limitations of whatever open sesame provides.
Yeah, it has to do with the scope of
Scope of permission.
the scope of the name. You think of it as if you know the name of the object, you can access it. So what's this? You know, so the object capability model depends on the scope of the name in order to for security.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse with this.
And Jim was right. This is an alternative to access control lists, which don't work, which are proven to fail.
Okay. And so basically this open sesame is the basis for the creation of ERTP, as well as implementing this on RChain. But I get the sense that there's a lot more to this that I'm not understanding if it's like going to become the basis for both of these systems.
Well, it's a matter of discipline. You know, if we think of an art object, we have to think of what capabilities do we need to create, and how should we distribute those capabilities so that people can do what they need to do with the object and should be allowed to do.
Yeah, what they contracted to do, what they paid for.
So that was helpful. So I should think of an art object as an OCAP object-oriented app. So I've got this art object, and I've got a password, open sesame. It's going to open it up, and it's going to that password. Our object can do 50 things, but open sesame allows it to do one thing.
Yep.
And so it does that. And then I have another password that says Shazam, and Shazam makes it do something else. Right. So I've got these 50 passwords, and each one of them allows it to do one thing. So and it can do all these. That's what it allows. It's got this repository of 50 things it can do, and these 50 passwords allow it to do each one thing.
Are they passwords or just commands at that point?
Say that again.
Are they passwords or just commands at that point?
Their names is the only way I can think to say it.
Okay.
Okay. Consider the case where you have a VAT, and the VAT has in it an account or a bank account, right? So, and I have a capability, and anybody has the capability to, or we have a public capability of anyone to deposit money into the account. Okay, I alone have the capability to withdraw from the account. Now, inside the VAT, we can add and subtract from the balance, but I don't have a capability to add and subtract the balance. I can only do a deposit or a withdrawal. Okay, if I could add and subtract from the balance, then I could create. You know, it would be a security violation. I could make money out of nothing.
So is this, I mean, I'm wondering almost, is this, I'm wondering if it's like, is this what I feel like this is what I'm already thinking about in relationship to a distributed art object.
Yes, and I think about these art objects that way. You know, when I think about what we can do with them, I think, oh wow, yeah, we can sell the rights to only view this frame from this video with this object capability.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's really interesting. I feel like this is maybe a different language, but I'm also open to the fact that I'm missing a huge amount of nuance about this. But in a way, like I feel like that's what an art object is, where it's like the idea of being able to encode capabilities into the object on top of whatever the object already does. But I was just thinking about that in terms of like just that's what a smart contract does, right? It like mediates the relationship in that way. But what you're saying is like it's not so much that a smart contract does this; it's that the object itself does this as a smart contract.
So the art object is a OCAP, object capability object.
All right, and so when we write the Rolang for an art object, we have to define what is the language of it that people use to interact with it, and who gets that capability. Okay, so we have to, when we create an object, okay, what we want to do is we want to return, when we do to create a new object, we want to where to go? Well, we're going to define all these methods that go along with it.
Those are our object capability.
These are our objects. So if you have a admin capability, you can sell it. Okay, if you have an admin capability, you can do a set data. An art object capability is a public capability. You can get data, get history. Okay, what it doesn't, I don't see it doing here. Okay, we have a return here. The only two capabilities we are creating here is the art object and the admin, right? That's all we've done so far, is we have two admin methods and two art object methods. So we're just returning those two capabilities here.
All right, I just had a thought. So in a way, is it that almost all the stuff that I've been talking about and kind of obsessing about in relationship to the other contract, the artist rights and transfer sale agreement, that's just all data that gets stored in these fields. And what you've been talking about is actually object capabilities this whole time. And I've been conflating those two things. So in the relationship to defining what the art object is, that's been my main concern, right?
And what you should be concerned with is what it does, not what it is. The capabilities are what it can do, or what can be done with it, or to it.
Yeah, okay. I think it's like a dim bulb just kind of went off. It's very small. It's like a sort of like a dim Christmas light, but I'm Jewish and it's Hanukkah, so it's not really like kind of going too like brightly, but I'm getting a sense. All right. So, so then what are the object capabilities? So I guess the first two things that come to mind is sale and then exhibition, right? And they're two discrete things. And sale could include exhibition rights, right? But they're basically, you could exhibit it without owning the object, right? So there's ownership and exhibition.
So we can have another Well, we might have an exhibit admin function, but we also might have a public function. I don't know. Let's see.
So it's with exhibition rights. It's like, well, okay, yeah, like, is there money involved? What
exhibit. Okay, so exhibit has to return something. It has to do something like a new exhibition right. So if you say, if you're going to give, you need a way to exhibit the piece. And to exhibit the piece, you have to give an exhibition right capability to somebody. So we have to create that.
What is that thing, though? Is that like a token?
It's a name.
That's the name Shazam or
Okay,
Sesame.
So instead of using
word,
tokens to mediate access, we're just going to use name control.
Right. And they're unforgeable names.
Unforgeable names. So like, if I give the name to Steve and I say, Steve, you can exhibit my artwork.
Right. You're gonna have to get it back. Okay. Let's say.
Is the name unique? The thing that I give Steve, is that a unique identifier that's unique to Steve, or is that something that I could then give to Gary?
Well, it depends on how exhibition right is implemented. It could work just once, or it could work an unlimited number of times. It could require a signature of some public key, which is more like an access permission, but it's a way that you can be sure that it didn't get leaked to somebody else.
So you can have this.
If it's a one-time key, that it's safer, right?
Okay, so it will be a one-time key then.
One-time key. Okay.
Well,
So
what
then,
happens when they do? Escape.
And how is that key generated? Is that the GUID? Would we use that type of system to generate the key?
What do you mean? The
unforgeable name.
Unforgeable name? No, we just say new exhibit token, new exhibit right, and that's just what the new does. Is it makes an unforgeable name.
But an unforgeable name, it's about a 15, 16 character alphanumeric key. So
who's generating that, or like what generates that key?
It's a cryptographic algorithm that generates it.
Right.
So
and it's part of Rolang.
Yeah, Rolang creates the unforgeable name.
Oh. Okay, so in a way, it's kind of like, all right, maybe I'm just getting wrapped up in the language. So basically, this is like a temporary private key that gives you access to the object.
Exactly. You can think of it. You can take out the word unforgeable name and replace it with private key. That can help you kind of understand it a little bit better. But it's
but the object is issuing this thing in relationship only to it.
Right. Every capability is a separate unforgeable name.
Oh. This is actually way more complex than I realized.
Oh, yeah, it's way more complex than anybody knows.
My model though for this was just based on a token, not the object itself issuing permissions. I thought the token was going to be issuing permissions. All of my models were built on the idea that the token issues permissions through the smart contract. Why did you correct me? I just published this whole thing. Why did you correct me on this?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to.
We're
See
all trying to figure
the
this out.
the right context for
It-
what we're
yeah.
saying things.
Right. All this stuff is out there. It's just when you go to apply it to something, working through the mechanics of it, that's when you really start to understand the significance of it all. So, yeah, it's this, and this won't be it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. But yeah.
Okay, so what I have to do is I'm going to send back on this return channel the exhibition right? So by calling admin exhibit, I'm going to get back an exhibition right, which I can give to somebody, right? Now the issue comes, what does the exhibition right allow us to do? Okay, let's assume for a moment that it's going to let us run. It's going to let us do something once. Okay, a one-time. Let's say it's a one-time permission. Well, actually let's start with, let's do both. We'll start with a contract definition. Contract exhibition. Oops, right. And let's say take in
Well, like, so the primary thing I think is access to the location hash, right? Where the file is, right? It's located someplace.
no, it's not located anywhere. These are global, but
Well,
they're local. They're in the namespace.
But we're talking about a file like located in a distributed storage system, right?
Oh, okay. You're saying that we have, right? We have a pointer to some maybe hash of something on IPFS or something, right?
Yeah, or RChain. I don't know which, but like like access. That's a public-private key, right? And as far as I know, there's one key. Now, what's interesting? Oh my God! All right. Oh wow! All right. So if you don't, no one gets that public-private key, but the object issues permissions that then are individualized and give you access without you getting the actual private key for the object. Because then it's basically, think about it this way. It's like if IPFS, if I have the private key to access my file on IPFS, I give that private key to Steve. Steve can access that file, right? But if the object itself is mediating that, is there a way for this to issue the key, like an individualized name, right, which allows us to access the file location on IPFS without getting the other private key?
Yeah, we can do that. Of course, we have to have a trusted app. We have to have a trusted app that's going to take, give the object, right? It has to, it's going to have to stream the object.
Yeah.
Otherwise we can't give the name of the object to the person, to the receiver. That, we can't give them the capability to get it.
But RChain's going to have
if they bought permission to buy it forever, we can give them the address. Right?
But RCat is set up to do this, no?
Yeah. I don't know how exactly it does it.
Yeah, you got a spelling issue. Contract exhibit right. You just need a EX.
Yeah.
And I got a simple I got a rolling question after you fix that. So two lines above where you have new exhibition right, does that new exhibition right, are you creating a channel there, or are you creating a unforgeable name?
A name and a channel are the same thing in row line. Okay.
Oh, okay. So that channel is identified with its unforgeable name. Okay, that was another. I got light bulbs going off over here as well.
Okay, so now I say return a capability, an exhibition right capability. So somebody sends admin the message exhibit. Now, only the artist has the admin capability. So the artist calls the exhibit, giving him an exhibition right. Now he can give that exhibition right to anybody he wants to, and they can do an exhibition. Now, if I make a contract, okay, unless there's something in here to prevent it, this will give them the capability of forever accessing it, okay, or exhibiting it as many times as they want. But that may not be what I want. So I may want, instead of doing this, I'll just leave it in there so we can see it. I might want to do a for and I'll just put an underscore here. I don't care what values I'm getting with this right now. I have here an empty string here, and I'm not giving it any name here, but I'm reading from the channel exhibition right. And then so what happens is, I don't know exactly what exhibit rights do, but here I've just have standard out high. Okay, the exhibition right might return some other secret. So when they exercise their execution right, they're able to do something once. I don't say what that something is right now, but there's something they can do one time with that exhibition right.
And so that could be access to the file location.
Right.
So
or a one-time key that, will unlock it on the player or something. I don't know.
Yeah, basically, and the player then mediates the relationship to the actual file location. That's the trusted intermediary app that you're talking about.
Yeah, and it may be that the exhibition right actually is given to the player, and the player gives it to the art object to get the address.
Okay, so all right, I'm understanding.
You get the one-time address.
The one-time address. Yeah. And then all right. So then basically that's all we can do until, can you like just notate this? Is there a way to just like do a / notate? Just be like, okay, this is the stand-in for where we would receive the address to access the file. Because basically we can't do that until we have a player app, which maybe means we would need to talk to RChat in order to have that. Otherwise,
you know, the player app can simply be an HTTP proxy. Okay, and you know, if Thomas Love gets his way, you'll be able to do that right in RChain. You won't have to have a separate program to do the proxy for the object.
Okay, yeah. That's kind of what my next question was going to be, is like, could we just do this within RChain? But not yet.
Not yet, right.
What is this player apps supposed to be doing?
Well, it's the RChat thing. It's basically streaming the file from RChain and then caching it in a secure cache on your browser, right? Okay. So then you can play the file.
Okay.
So it's in a way, so that way you're not like downloading the full thing, and the file is streaming off of the RChain node.
Gotcha.
Net.
Right. So you know, whether I mean the player could be in RChain a row line contract someday. Okay, when Thomas Love's HTTP feature gets in there, we'll be able to do a proxy right on RChain. But until then, we access some other proxy, which we trust. I mean, maybe it gives us something, and then, you know, we have a player object on this end too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the player has a secret, and the exhibitor has a capability, and you put those two capabilities together to get the streaming of the art object.
I'm wondering about like, let's say like time. Could there be a time variable? So like the amount of time that the ID, the name ID, what are we calling it?
We can put any conditions we want in this thing.
So I guess the first condition of exhibition rights is, what's the amount of time that you are allowed to exhibit this, right?
Okay, so what we would want to do was when we create this these exhibit rights, we want to have some time limit, right? So, oops, comma.
Is time limit a system variable, or is that, what is that?
No, it's just an unforgeable name. It's another name. It's a channel. It's a channel that I can use to store some data on. Okay, so now I don't actually know how to get the time, but what I'll do is I'll just pass it as an argument here. Time. And then
is that a calculation that the network could perform, or is that something?
Yeah, there's some times for it. It's not much, because you see, you can't verify a time in a distributed network. Everybody's time is different, so you can't have any consensus on time. Which is why the time usually comes from the outside, from an oracle. Mm-hmm. It says this is the time, but we can get the time. We can get the node time. I just don't know how.
Like, what type of oracle exists for time? What is the time oracle? That sounds sweet.
That's
time oracle,
time
you
oracle.
know, just in your application, you use a JavaScript function to get the time. And then you...
From your local machine.
Yeah, your local machine, you're going to get the time. But I think you also can get the node time. Like I said, I don't know how. The node time is it's in the logs. I mean, somehow, so you can always get it from the logs.
Well, why not pull it in from like I don't know, Unix time, like?
Yeah, well, that's a little harder. You need a primitive to do that. But if you want to get the time from the most recent block, you could probably do that.
Because let's say I say like, okay, I want you to be able to exhibit this video for 2 weeks.
Exhibition. Let's say, well, I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to get the date here. You know, so when we do an exhibit here, what I would have to do at this point is do something like put the current time as part of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would okay, so the player tells us what time it is. The player wants to find out if the viewer is allowed to see it. So the player sends us the current time and to basically ask the question, can the person do this? And then in here, well, if we make this contract, they can do it as many times as they want until this time. Oops.
I'm being summoned to another meeting. I'll try to get back to you guys here in a bit.
All right, very good. See you later. So
yep, see you guys.
So we just say if the current time is greater than.
Isn't that faulty though? Because you know you're basing the time on someone's personal computer. I mean, they could forge that, no?
Well, I'm assuming that you know, I'm assuming right now. I'm assuming the player is smart. If not, we have to get the time a different way.
You can.
I'm assuming the player is trusted. Well, trusted somewhat. We trust the player that if it has if it can get an exhibition right, we can do the we can give him the we can perform the action or give him the key, whatever.
You can get trusted oracles that are based on consensus that will usually suffice for these low-risk applications.
Oh.
I'll make a time limit.
Do you think someone will just like build one that works on the RChain net?
What? Build one?
Yeah, well, there'll probably be some that start popping up. Consensus oracles.
Yeah, there's, you know, I mean, you know, we'll need oracles for a lot of stuff. I mean, you got the price of Bitcoin, you get any real world information, we have to use an oracle. And you have to trust the oracle.
But if it's consensus based, then your trust can be justified.
Right.
You know,
right. You can, if somebody says, what time is it? It can try 5 time services. and give you, the median or something.
But machines can join those consensus networks to secure the network. So there are actually services that will become available for time. I don't think we need to worry too much about.
They're already available.
Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about that for our applications, really. Yeah, at this point.
Well, it's an interesting thing, though, because I think a lot about the time element. It's also how we're authenticating the uniqueness of the file as an unique art object, right? We're verifying it based on the time that it was hashed and uploaded.
Yeah, I don't know if we're
so the file that Eric uploads at 2 p.m. on Monday, that's the art object, not the thing that Gary uploaded at 2 o'clock on Tuesday.
Well, its hash determines it. I don't know if the hash is probably dependent on the time.
Is it though? I thought hashes don't necessarily factor that in. Or I thought we had to do something special to make that work.
I'm calling this time limit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see the concern about. Can you restate your concern, Eric?
The object, when we hash it and then upload it to distributed storage, the files, right? Like I have a video file, I hash that video file, I then upload that hashed video file to distributed storage, which issues its own location hash. The time that file is hashed should factor in somehow, so it's a unique thing that exists in time and space. Otherwise, the same file will match the checksum, right? And it's kind of defeats the purpose. So like, if you compare the hash to the original file, assuming it's the same, then it'll give you a checksum, right? Is that? Or am I not saying that right? It's like when you compare the hashed file to the original file, if it's the same, then it says, okay, these are the same, right?
Right. It's not a checksum, though. It's a hash.
What's the checksum?
Checksum is an alternative to a hash. It shows the file are the same. It would have to be the same checksum.
Oh, okay. I thought, okay, all right. So
usually you would use either a hash or a checksum.
So the thing is, if let's say I've got a video file and I send that video file to you, both of you, we each have the identical file. Which one of them is the actual object, right? Well, I, as the artist, have to be able to upload that file at 2:10 p.m. on Tuesday, March 16th, and then that file is the one that we're saying is the actual art object. Even though Gary and Jim both have the identical file, it's the one that Eric uploaded at this time and this date, which is the actual thing, right? That's what makes it unique. So the time thing, does that make sense, Gary, or does that not make sense still?
Oh, I don't know that I'm following the reasoning about, the talk about which one is the original file.
Well, it's like the idea that the artist is the person that is the genesis of the object.
But there's the file, and then there's the art doesn't exist without I mean, it's a transaction here that we're actually talking about. The art is a transaction between the artist and the art viewer.
I think he might be alluding to the self-sovereignty of the art object, and we really should give a DID. A DID address should or identify the object.
Can I or let me tell this story in a different way. So with moving pictures gallery, right? I'm doing a performance, and so I'm creating sound and video in real time, right? Like, so you guys understand what I mean when I say that, right? Like, I'm doing a performance, and I'm using software on my computer to generate live sound and video like together. And if I record that performance, I want to edition that as an art object, right? Okay, fine. So I did a performance, I recorded a video. So I've now got a half an hour video of the performance, of like a program feed of the performance. And that's a unique art object, right? Then let's say the next day, I do the performance again. It's the performance is not going to be identical to the one that I did the day before. It's still the same piece, but it's a different performance, right? I'm now saying, okay, that new performance is also its own art object. It's a non-fungible token, or it's represented as a non-fungible object. Each performance is non-fungible because they happened in different times and spaces. They're separated by that. And because time, as we perceive it, is linear and is non-fungible, right? Unless we're Jim, and Jim can perceive time in many different ways. But I can't yet. I'm not there yet. Soon.
Time and space.
Time and space.
Now you got me off topic.
Does that make sense? So like the whole thing here is that we need to somehow factor the time of the hashing and uploading into that thing being, okay, it's this file, which is the actual object.
Right. Well, each object is going to have the metadata associated with, would include the date and time. Okay, we already have a field, I think, for that, the date and time. We store that in the JSON, right? And we're going to decide a schema for the stuff we normally need from art objects, and it's going to be extensible, and that you can put any information you want in the metadata.
Oh, I see. But then basically that JSON file, which is in DID format, gets uploaded to the storage, which issues the unique storage hash. So the file itself is hashed, and we can't include the time into that hashing of that file, or can we? But then when it gets combined with the JSON, which has the time, then that gets uploaded to distributed storage, and those two things get hashed together. Is there a way that we can include the time?
You can hash them together. I don't know that you would need to. I mean, if you're talking about public information, you would just put the JSON along with the file to identify it. Because if you have an edition, let's say you sell 100 copies of this, each one would have a different number of, first, second, third, fourth, fifth in the edition. And so you would have one performance, but you would have some number of additions, or what do you call it? A limited edition. You could, you might have, which each is a separate art object with a different number. But I think the date of an art object would be part of the structure. And I guess when you're thinking about it, files on a disk drive, you would have my performance dot MP4 and my performance dot JSON.
Those two things together form the uniqueness of that object.
Yeah.
The timestamp, when a file gets hashed, will it produce a timestamp?
Well, you can. I mean, whenever you create a file, it usually has a creation time and date. I don't think that's true with IPFS.
Really? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, but certainly you could put the time and date with it. The problem with doing that, I mean that's really something you want to decide. Generally, if the hash of something of a particular edition will be unique in any case.
Will be what?
Unique.
Why though? Because if I send you
the performances are going to be slightly different.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I'm giving that as an example. I mean, obviously, there's many different formulations. I'm giving that as an example because that's where my thinking about this came from. Was when I was working with Benton on that idea. It's that we were trying to tie the idea of performance to the non-fungible token. But now when we're talking about object capabilities, I think that there still is the need for identifying what the unique object is. And the only way to do that is through the additioning of that object, somehow involving time, the time of its addition. But maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe it's just its timestamp goes into the JSON file and that's it. I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah, I think if that you really want, if the content is identical, you want the hash to be identical. You want it to be content addressable in that manner. There certainly will be reasons for keeping the art object for having a number of art objects with the same content. Then we should come up with, well, what is the timestamp is not the name of the art object. The DID is the name, and that could be that could be the hash.
Every transaction on a blockchain has a timestamp, no?
Well, every block has a timestamp.
Every block has a timestamp. But when I broadcast, like Eric paid Jim 1 Bitcoin, that's not timestamped?
Not exactly.
It's just within the framework of the block, whatever computation the block is doing.
Yeah. It happened, it happened between the last proposed and the current proposed. And the thing is that everything's done in parallel, so it doesn't, the order that things happen in a block doesn't matter much.
Yeah. Okay. So we hashed the file. There's now a hashed file on my hard drive, and that basically we would have some kind of like local app that hashes the file and generates the JSON data, the DID data. Or no, it wouldn't be local. It'd be a server that you upload the file to. So
yeah. If we had a JSON schema that was close to what we wanted to create in the JSON, we could have a user interface to collect all the data we want.
Yeah, on a website, and then basically would have an online hashing protocol, and it would spit out the hashed file and the hashed JSON.
Yeah, and it would assign the a DID to it, which could include the time. The DID could include the time, and it could include the hash, or it could be just a random string for that matter. But there's no reason it can't have structure. I think if it has structure and meaning, it's a more valuable DID.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking after a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at GUID.
GUID. Right.
GUID.
GUIDs. Globally unique identifiers.
I was looking at that, and I was looking a bit into DID. I mean, it's really deep. The question is, I think in my mind, there's a bit of a chicken or the egg issue of like what comes first, right? Like, does all of the data about the certificate of authenticity, is it redundant in the DID? Or is the DID, no, your point was that DID is just got like hyperlinks to other places where the data actually is. Right. So it's almost like a table of contents, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it can include data, but the main point of a DID directory entry is that you can change it. Okay, and that's what makes the identity self-sovereign.
Well, this hashing app, where would it live? Like the hashing and DID generator, would it just live on our own server? Like, would it live on RChain?
Yeah, it would basically. I mean, obviously, it would live on RChain. These would be programs in Golang, but you would have a user interface to it. That would be.
But would it be expensive to hash files using the RChain node?
Well, right. We may not want to do that. We may want to do that in the client.
Client side.
Client side, yeah. I mean, the client is a VAT. That the artist trusts to hash his file. So there's no reason we can't do it in the client's machine.
Maybe this is a good project for me to try doing. I'm taking a network class right now, like a network media class, and so we're learning. I'm getting reintroduced to web development 101. Like it's kind of like, it's like all grad students, but I'm like kind of like getting back into like, I haven't coded web pages in like 10 years, so we're getting back into JavaScript and using different JavaScript libraries to do like art, like to do kind of art related things using APIs, like kind of data vizy type of stuff.
And you'll be able to run Golang contracts also.
I will?
From the JavaScript, yeah.
Wait, how so?
Well, you just use the Thomas Love's library and you call deploy. Right?
Wait, he wrote a
And
JavaScript library for doing rolling?
you write, have some row line, as text. You call the deploy function.
Oh. Huh.
So we'll be
And hashing? Can
so
we
you'll be able to write our apps as web pages. You can
okay,
make web pages and
it'll
put
just be like
JavaScript in it.
it'll just be like script, and then just like rolling code basically, or it'd be like row script or whatever.
Yeah, well, you'll call the deploy function and then put the row line code in quotes that you want to deploy.
Huh. Okay, so going back to your
You'll actually have promises that will come back. You have to know how to do promises. You get the results of the deploy. In other words, you do a deploy, it gives you a promise. And then when you get the promise, then that means that the deploy is finished and you can do the next thing, whatever. If you're learning the JavaScript, I'm sure you'll learn about promises pretty soon.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've gotten a little bit. Right now, I'm on spring break, which apparently is going to get extended for the next 6 months. But this is interesting. So we started work. So we've got like a little bit of DID. So in the sense, like the DID document that we were creating, when I look back on it, it actually didn't need all the stuff that we were putting in it, right? Because all like the fields that I was creating to define the art object is actually going to be stored someplace else.
Yeah, and what I was doing was I was just putting it all in one place. So I was putting the detail where we're later going to have a pointer. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, where does the certificate of authenticity get stored then? Is it a separate document on RChain?
I guess it's a separate object, sort of.
Is it an object or is it an object capability?
It's well, it's yeah. I mean that's a public.
It's public information.
Public information, and you should be able to give it an art object, and it should be able to give you a signed document back that it's authentic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the capability. Give me a signed document that verifies that this is authentic.
Who's signing it?
The artist, or it could be, that depends on the signature that's expected, right? Who does it belong to? I mean, who is the one in control of it? I would assume that's the artist.
Yeah. But so it's signed by the artist. It's not signed by the system.
No.
Okay. All right. I need to like.
There's no intermediate authority on the blockchain. We can be our own authority. We can represent ourselves.
Can you recommend some resources for me to look into object capability stuff? Like, I was like trying to look at the Agoric website, but like I feel like I need to like understand this a little bit better in order to really like come at this on the level that you guys are thinking about this. Because like for me, just to be realizing this now, it's like taken a while. So I feel like I need to sort of do a bit of a deep dive this week and go back into some of this.
So we have Mark Milner, right?
Miller.
Miller.
Dude, I tried watching that ERTP video back in like December or something, and I found it to be totally opaque. Like I just couldn't get into it.
Mark Miller.
Eric, we were introduced to that video by Dan, who took us through it very carefully and showed us the things that we needed to see. And that would be a recording that we have.
Oh, okay. Hold on, let me go into the Discord really fast.
I'm trying to think how long ago that was. Would have been a Dan's office hour. I'm going to go look on YouTube.
I mean, these are all good videos. But I'm trying to find
Is there like
a history.
Is there like an idiot dum-dum version of this? Like
Okay, this is sort of the one that you would look at to actually do it. That's the best one for that. Now, I'm looking for an interview. I think.
Oh. Did I tell you guys that I was hanging out with the Economic Space Agency guys? Actually, I'm going to forward you some of their stuff. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about them because they've got, I'm reading through their white paper right now. It's really out there, man. Oh, so they're doing object capabilities too. Huh.
Yeah, this is also Mark Milner stuff. History of object capabilities. This must be it. Where's the video? Economic Space Agency. That must be the one.
Oh, is that Exceli? No.
With a small talk is one of these programming environments in which there is no artificial separation between the development tool and the programming languages. We actually both are integrated.
Well, that's Exceli. No, not that guy. The other guy's Exceli.
That tradition. Gravity is a runtime that allows space to this programming environment to not.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, there's this video, which was awesome. I mean, it was done at a pretty high level, sort of like gave the history of Mark Miller. What? Oh, I'm in the pub RChain.
I'm gonna go back and see if I can find that video from Dan's office hours that you guys made. I feel like that was back in like what, November?
It was shortly before you joined us. Not too long, maybe a month or two before you first joined us, Eric. Because I remember talking to you about it then.
Oh yeah, Jim posted in October something from the Economic Space Agency.
This might be it.
Yeah, that looks like it might be it.
Plus, the decades-long quest for secure smart contracts.
This episode of Epicenter is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Do you have an idea for a blockchain app but are worried about the time and cost?
I don't think this is the one.
Well before the web. And Xanadu was the one that had the vision of worldwide hypertext publishing as the new electronic medium for humanity.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Ted and I were both very influenced by George.
I met Ted.
1984, The History of Truth, and we understood that the coming world
Is this the one that I should watch?
could be a force for oppression.
Yeah, I watched this one, but this is not the one I like. I'm going to look some more. One I liked, he was done, I believe, he was standing up in front of an audience.
Yeah, I watched that one, Gary. That was the one that I watched.
Well, when we first saw that, Dan took us to a specific place in it, and it felt like that was kind of critical. Go up a little bit. Are there any more there?
The history of object capabilities. I'll just say, etc.
Mark Miller brought promises to JavaScript.
Oh, he did?
That's what Dan said back in November.
Promises, promises. Well, I should probably go.
All right, I'm just gonna look through and see if I find anything that helps. But yeah, I'll be around. I'm like around now, obviously, because I can't go anywhere. So I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys soon. I'm gonna jump off and sort of try to get on this.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing now. Everybody hates me because I think this coronavirus is blown way out of proportion.
You think it is, or they do?
I do. I do.
You think it's way out of proportion, being blown way out of proportion?
Absolutely way out of proportion. I mean, there were 540,000 deaths due to the flu.
No, hospitalizations.
Italy in a couple of years, and hundreds and many more hospitalizations than there were deaths. So we're talking like 100,000 people in an ordinary year with the flu. And what are we talking about? Another couple thousand? This is
well, I don't know. Cuomo just put an article out.
It's not even this 1/10 of 1% of the total deaths due to in an ordinary flu season.
Well, they're saying that this may overload the medical system, though, because it's going to.
That's a lie. They're holding us hostage. Wall Street is holding us hostage for a bailout again. This happens every few years. Okay, you have to watch Event 101 if you want to get really depressed. They planned this whole thing out, everything, to get the money. And this one Trump lover did a video which lays it out clearly, exactly what they did, sort of before it even was done. We knew what they were going to do, and now they've done it. And they've come up with their demands, and the stock market will continue to drop until we meet their demands. They do it to us every time.
But like, what about the actual like hospitalizations and stuff in Italy and like Iran and stuff?
You know, the news the news is controlled. Media is controlled.
Do you think they're making that
They're
up?
not telling you that the coronavirus number of beds compared to the flu is nothing. There are many more beds with people with the other flus, other viruses are worse than the coronavirus in terms of how many hospital beds they're using. It's not adding that much to the load. It's a small percentage. And yes, they had a shortage. They have a shortage of beds, but you know, it's not due to the coronavirus.
Well, as someone said earlier this morning, let's hope we've done too much and not enough.
Yeah.
Because some of the projections don't look good, Jim. So you're muted.
Hey, there's so many other viruses that are going around this year with much higher death rates, and many of them affect children and adults, okay, as well. And these are going to kill at least 20,000 people in the U.S. these years. The other viruses, coronavirus is not going to come anywhere near that.
But so Cuomo's article, Cuomo put an article out in the New York Times today saying that like in 9 months, this thing could infect like 200 million people and like kill 20 million.
What? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, the panic and the hype and you know, basically the misinformation. I mean, if you look at, well, let's look at, I don't know, where is it here? No, that's not what I was looking for. This is the thing that there was, they studied flu, 13, 14, 16, 17, in Italy, and they had huh. Among the elderly. $7,000, $20,000, $15,000, $24,000. So they had 24,000 deaths due to the influenza. Yeah, there's no way we're going to have that many deaths because, for one thing, people at risk, like myself, are going to be keeping our distance from other people. And we hope they all get it right away so that it's already immune and the threat is over. Because what happens is, where's the CDC? The most lethal viruses. There's so many viruses that are more viral and more deadly. and that are killing thousands of people. We don't care about those. I can't find it. Damn it.
I mean, I don't know, dude. The shit in China seems really like intense.
I've been arguing with Jim about this
Yeah.
for days now. We were arguing about it in the Hangout last week.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, there's just such perpetuation of bad information. It's no wonder everybody's panicking. But the Chinese situation is pretty extreme, and that's probably because the coronavirus's tree is grown in America. They don't have it over in China. It's like we got off the boat and brought this thing there, which is what they claim, and all the evidence suggests that that's true. We have a family of coronaviruses here. They don't there. That couldn't just spontaneously come out of nowhere without a family, of similar viruses that change into it, whatever.
I don't know. I heard that it was something that maybe jumped from bats due to habitat loss. That a lot of these viruses.
It's unlikely that it happened in China. Very unlikely.
Well, they say you get crosses from animals occasionally,
Right.
and they're usually bad for the people that get these animal to human crossings. But usually, you won't get subsequent human to human crossing. You can't.
Right.
But in this case, we got that rather badly. So anyway, let's hope for the best. Let's hope we've done way too much. I fear that we haven't done enough. But guys, I need to go. I've been running long today.
Yeah, well, the economy is going to shit for no good reason, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm sorry.
No. See you guys.
I agree. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, and I think it's totally unjustified.